AMD FSR 4.1 to skip RDNA 3.5 integrated graphics. Is AMD missing yet another opportunity? Well, AMD's Frank Azor has replied, so maybe not. Now, we've got lots of other topics to talk about in today's video. However, I do want to start with that controversy because there's a lot going on here. First of all, he was replying to this article from videocards.com titled AMD FSR 4.1 to skip RDNA 3.5 integrated graphics. However, this videocards.com article was citing a source at Hardware Lux. All my sources will be linked in the video description. Now, it's this article at Hardware Lux where at Computex, we, meaning Hardware Lux, had the opportunity to speak with David McAfee. I may butcher some names in this video because I get most of my news through text articles, so I'm not sure how they're pronounced. Anyway, McAfee, corporate VP and general manager of AMD's client division, so he would have knowledge on this kind of topic. Now, the topic of the conversation was mostly focused on the announcement of Ryzen 7 5800X3D and Ryzen 7 7700X3D processors. However, they were able to ask about FSR 4.1. That comes in here. So back in May, for context, we got the news that FSR 4 would be coming to RDNA 3 graphics cards, that is the Radeon RX 7000 series, with RDNA 2, that's the 6000 series cards, coming in 2027. However, the thought process is, though, that AMD's APUs are based on RDNA 3.5. Now, these are used heavily in handheld gaming PCs, as well as a bunch of mini PCs, some laptops, all sorts of things. So these are actually used tons for gaming, and while it's not RDNA 3, it's RDNA 3.5. Nothing about it being a slightly higher version would make you feel like you should be left out of a major update like this. However, he continues, according to McAfee, FSR 4 was on the roadmap for RDNA 3 and RDNA 2 in the long term. However, since the cards based on the RDNA 4 architecture are significantly faster than those based on RDNA 3 and below, they first wanted to ensure that the FSR 4 running in Int 8 version could also keep pace with the implementation in FP8. In other words, we got the Int 8 version of this leaked out a while back, and a lot of people, myself included, have already tested it out. Remember, on RDNA 4, it runs using FP8, but FP8 instructions aren't supported on these older RDNA architectures, so they were running on Int 8. So there was a bit of a performance penalty for these. So they're saying that ensuring functionality and image quality ultimately meant that it won't be ready until July of 2026 for RDNA 3. RDNA 2 isn't expected until early 2027. Now, here's where we get to the RDNA 3.5 piece. According to McAfee, FSR 4.1 is not currently planned for RDNA 3.5. They stated that they need to weigh the pros and cons of implementation. However, here's, I think, a pretty important sentence. Currently, the decision seems to be leaning towards no. So, the actual Hardware Lux article did not say that the decision was final. So that is pretty important, although it was saying that after weighing pros and cons, they're leaning towards no. Now, that's where we then come in with this post from AMD's Frank Azor, replying to the videocards.com article with the headline, AMD FSR 4.1 to skip RDNA 3.5 integrated graphics. So the headline certainly makes it sound like the decision is final, despite that not being what the actual source specifically said. So his reply is, I wasn't there to hear the exact words said. However, I will share that no such decision as being reported and implied here has been made. Again, the source actually didn't say that the decision had been made. They said it was leaning in that direction. Anyway, we are not ready to speak to any other potential future product plans at this time. We continue to listen to our customers and we hear you. So it's also important to note he's not saying that we're definitely getting it on RDNA 3.5. He's just saying we're not ready to talk about that and we're listening. Now, the person who did seem ready to talk about that said that they are leaning towards no. So that's the current information. So I am hoping that they hear all of the public blowback against this leaning towards no, and that they listen and they do support it. Now, it seems like the argument against supporting it is primarily performance-based. Now, I didn't test out the leaked Int 8 version on any APUs, but again, there are major APUs using this, and some people did test the performance. For example, Digital Foundry, all my sources will be in the video description, you can check this out. They tested out the ROG Ally. Again, there are tons of major gaming devices, especially handhelds, that use RDNA 3.5 extensively for gaming, and to play the latest games, you often would rely on upscaling. They saw that at 1080p native, now the exact percentages will change a little bit if I let this play from moment to moment, just to be clear. So when I freeze it at this moment, it's not like exactly this all the time. Again, you feel free to watch the full video. And native 1080p running Cyberpunk here, they're getting 28 FPS using FSR 4 quality. Again, this is the leaked Int 8 FSR 4 version. It's possible that the official version that we get will be different and updated because this was leaked a long time ago. But they're saying with FSR 4 quality, it's only a 17-ish% performance boost here, going up to 33 FPS from 28. So maybe that doesn't feel that worth using. But it's important to note that if you go to balanced mode, we're now up to 36 FPS, which is a 27.5% boost over native. And if you go all the way to performance mode, where you're now up to almost 40 FPS and almost 40% boost over native. So that's still, I think, worth considering using. Now, if you compare it up against FSR 3, the performance boost is nowhere near as good. The FSR 3 balanced compared to FSR 4 balanced is a full 10 FPS and a significant percentage faster. Again, 44 FPS versus 54 in this particular scene right here, using the same internal rendering resolution. As another data point, XeSS quality, which are their internal resolutions are named differently. So I believe quality XeSS uses the same internal rendering resolution as FSR and DLSS when they're using the balanced performance. So don't get thrown off by that naming scheme. It's the same internal rendering resolution. Well, it's kind of somewhere in between, getting a 33.8% performance boost here, where FSR 4 balance is currently hitting 24.6 and FSR 3 balance is hitting 53.4. But notice all of these are faster than native. So having the option to potentially use a more aggressive setting on FSR 4 upscaling, so you lower internal rendering resolution, compared to FSR 3, to get a bigger performance boost, but potentially with better image quality, because FSR 4 looks enough better that the performance mode in FSR 4 sometimes looks better than the quality mode with FSR 3. That's where I think this should be allowed to be used. Now, if they want to throw up like a warning in the driver or something where because this is going to be done with a driver override. So if you kick on the driver override, I think it should maybe warn you that on this type of device, it might not get a large performance boost compared to using older versions of FSR. Maybe pop up that warning for users, but giving users the option, I think, should be done, because even if it's not a big performance boost, if it's faster than native, and it might look better than the upscaling from the older version of FSR, I think there could be a use for this. Now, there's also a use for the used market. If you check out Jawa.gg, you can get entire pre-built gaming systems, some of which were built using parts that happened before RAM and SSD prices went insane. So I can't claim the used market isn't impacted, but potentially getting much better deals than on the new market. And you can use their PC Finder to find exactly what you're looking for. Look for performance in specific games at specific resolutions, get the exact components you're looking for, search for the exact price you're looking for, even the theme that you're looking for. And of course, you can buy individual components as well. And yes, the used market is offering better deals than the new market. You can fund your upgrades by selling your hardware to Jawa. You can sell directly to Jawa for the maximum convenience option. They buy CPUs and GPUs, and you can get an instant offer clicking the instant offer button button here. But also you could become a Jawa seller, set your own prices, and create your own listings. All of that, there's tons of great reviews, and I can save you $10 off your first purchase using code OWEN10. And a huge thank you to Jawa for sponsoring this part of today's video. Now, other news we've got going today would put it right up against AMD's handhelds. This is another reason why I think it's such a big deal that AMD support the FSR for upscaling on their handheld devices, because Intel is coming in hot with the Arc G3 Extreme. Now, of course, the handheld devices that will be featuring this are pretty expensive from what we've seen, because that's mostly down to the RAM and SSD pricing rather than, I think, Intel overcharging on the chip. It's claimed, at least according to Intel's own performance numbers, so first-party stuff, you might question it, but they're claiming to deliver Ryzen Z2 Extreme, that's AMD's main targeted APU, RDNA 3.5 base that they use in like the ROG Xbox Ally X. They're saying that they can deliver that kind of performance at half the power. Now, they're saying that they're able to basically either be significantly faster than AMD's Z2 Extreme by like 42%, although they are talking about using 2x upscaling enabled in supported titles, so I'm wondering if that's, I would hope they mean 2x upscaling on both GPUs, not just theirs. These are first-party graphs, so sometimes fishy things are happening, but they're claiming 42% faster when they're both running at 35 watts, but they're saying that if they drop theirs down to 17 watts versus 35 watts on the ROG Ally X, that they're still, on average across a bunch of games, offering about the same performance. So that sounds like a pretty significant competitor if any of those performance claims end up being true in third-party independent testing. But that sounds like a pretty big competitor, especially because their Arc G3 Extreme will be offering the latest upscaling and frame gen technologies from Intel. And if you're like, but XeSS runs on AMD GPUs too, not the full XMX version. The full XMX version is better image quality. It's just a better technology. There's a fallback version that runs on competitor devices. So, yeah, I think this is a pretty big potential competitor to AMD in that handheld space. So seriously, AMD, when you're thinking about the pros and cons, think about the competition entering the market right now. Now, if you're thinking about, wow, that sounds like a pretty powerful GPU from Intel, are we going to get a next gen of Intel Arc desktop GPUs? Because a lot of news has been putting that into question. We are getting some headlines out of Computex that implying that they are still thinking about being in that lineup, with Intel execs saying Arc GPUs are not leaving Intel's PC roadmap. It seems like videocards.com sourced this information from tweakers.net. Again, all my sources in the video description, although this was not in English, so I did use the Google Chrome browser to translate this page. They're saying that GPUs are a super important part of our PC product range. This is an Intel executive. Alex Katuzian, I may have mispronounced that, again, apologies, after Tweakers asked them about the future of Arc desktop graphics cards, saying, if you look at gaming, both mobile and on PC, huge revenues are generated there. We want to ensure that we play a significant role in that. So this certainly sounds like they are interested in continuing desktop GPUs. So hopefully that does come out with, future generations, more competition, more time to get their driver stack going. Really hoping that that continues. Now, on the AMD side of things, we recently saw the launch of the RX 9070 GRE. I already have some benchmark numbers on my channel, and my main hesitation was it's priced pretty dang close to a 5070 and also to a 9070 non-XT and non-GRE, which both are offering better performance, and the NVIDIA competition has the whole NVIDIA feature set thing. So we're seeing this headline from WCCF Tech that AMD Radeon RX 97 GRE sells almost 0 units on day one at a major German retailer. It's Mind Factory, which does publish sales information, I know. And the issue seems to be that you could get the 9070, non-GRE or XT version at a very similar price. So why would you buy the GRE? Now, if I check the American market, I'm seeing that there are tons of 9070 GREs in stock, so they certainly didn't sell out on launch day. And there's a bunch available at their stated MSRP, so at least it wasn't a fake MSRP at $550. However, sure enough, if you're willing to spend $600, you could get the 9070, which has more VRAM at 16 versus 12 and more performance. And it's not that much more money. Honestly, if you don't go too much further down, you start to even see a 9070 XT model available, which not only has 16 gigabytes of VRAM, but has significantly more performance. Now that's at $650, so $100 more. But like $100 more once you're already spending $550, it's not out of the question. You might consider that for significantly more performance and more VRAM. Or you could go the Nvidia route with the 5070 at $600 for the least expensive models, although most are closer to $630. Same amount of VRAM, get the Nvidia feature set and more performance. Although not significantly more performance, it is still more performance plus the Nvidia feature set with the same VRAM for not that much more money. So I'm not surprised to see these aren't really selling out. Now, AMD at Computex did tell Tom's Hardware that they are still considering a Ryzen 5 9600X3D. When they were asked about a 6-core Zen 5 X3D chip, they said it could be something we look at doing later this year. So that's certainly not a it's happening, but it's also not a it's not happening. Now, how would that end up performing and being priced up against the upcoming 7700X3D? That still remains to be seen. And really, the big hang up on the desktop PC side of things is the RAM pricing and even SSD pricing now. So with that still, up in the air, it's like, well, how excited can I get about upcoming CPUs? Now, other news coming out of Computex is that we've seen what could be an upcoming cooler for an RDNA 5 GPU, although currently it has a 9070 XT inside of it. Also, it's using the 12-volt 2x6 power connector, which I've been recently personally annoyed by when it melted on my review sample 5090 Founders Edition. Now, to be clear, the Founders Edition does draw a lot more, the 5090 draws a lot more power than a 9070 XT does, and presumably the RDNA 5 GPU might be more in that kind of power target rather than trying to be in that 600 watt range. But still, ASRock has Tai Chi versions of the 9070 XT that are already using the 12-volt 2x6 connector, and I have seen photos of those melted. So, I don't like that connector. I don't like it. I wish they would not use it. But whatever, it is what it is. Now, in other graphics card cooler news, we saw Power Color showcasing a UV reactive art on the backplate. I found this here at techpowerup.com. And so it looks like under UV lighting, which you could put in your case, you get some art that kind of lights up in a cool way, reacting to that. So neat. In the Nvidia GPU side of things, we had seen rumors that the 3060 12GB might be coming back into production, and it's looking that is now the case, at least in China, with Board's channel saying the once popular mid-range graphics card, the colorful Battle Axe GeForce RTX 3060 Duo 12GB V2 is now available nationwide. And they're saying that the wholesale bulk pricing would be $21.99. But it's looking like when videocards.com looked up what it would actually cost to buy it on the actual market, that it seemed to be coming in priced at 2349 RMB, which would convert in US dollars to about $347. So would I be that impressed with a $350-ish RTX 3060 12GB in this market? Well, it gives you 12 gigabytes at that pricing rather than 8, but the 8 gigabyte cards from Nvidia at that price point are significantly more performant. For example, if we looked at like a 5060 Ti 8 gigabyte version, there are at least some in stock at about $370. And, 5060 Ti only has 8 gigabytes, but it performs a heck of a lot faster. So I would hope that it would stay under $300. And also then you're competing with the used market where I've seen them, like at Jawa, for example, I've seen them recently for around $200 for the 3060 12GB models. So yeah, not too excited if it hits that price point. Now, in other NVIDIA news, there's a beta update for the NVIDIA app that has allowed 4K 240 FPS shadow play recording for 50 series and 40 series GPUs. I believe that previously it topped out at 120. So if you're interested in super high frame rate recording, cool, but keep in mind that like most, if you're sharing those videos to others, very few sites, if any, that I know of are going to support that. Like you share the actual just file to people, but like YouTube's going to be locking it down to 60 FPS anyway. So anyway, could be cool for recording purposes for your own use case, I guess. Now, the NVIDIA RTX Spark laptops, we now have some pricing rumors. Apparently around $1,800 for the lower end systems, and the N1X systems could be around $2,900. I found this at videocards.com. Where are they getting the information from? Looks like this tweet from Max Weinbach, who is saying that Morgan Stanley posted a report on RTX Spark and mentioned pricing. Saying that our checks with PC brands at this year's Computex suggest AI PCs with the N1X will need to price at around $2,900, while the N1 models would be around $1,800. So that's hardly official pricing, but they're saying they did talk to PC brands who would be theoretically selling these on the market and if you talk to them at Computex and they tell you a price, I would say that, I would maybe expect that to be the case. So these certainly look to be more interesting for people looking to use the high amounts of system memory that it can use as VRAM for running local AI models, and maybe not for like a budget gaming laptop or anything like that, because certainly not priced competitively in that regard. Now, what is priced competitively in the laptop space is the MacBook Neo. At Mac Rumors, on an they're saying that on an earnings call in late April, Apple's CEO Tim Cook said that customer response to the MacBook Neo was off the charts, and that popularity led to the company significantly boosting production. So I just want to highlight this as a sign that if anybody can get their prices down, the market is certainly hungry for it if you can hit that price point. With apparently the MacBook Neo rumoring to have doubled production. Last thing I'll mention is just that Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis has been announced, and it's also now been announced as the latest AAA game made with generative AI tools. However, the developer Crystal Dynamics have responded to this WCCF Tech article with some additional information, saying, at Crystal Dynamics, we leverage AI tools to help our teams iterate on ideas faster and more efficiently, while ensuring that all finished content in the final product is human crafted. Our goal is to empower the creativity and flexibility of our developers to deliver the highest quality experiences for players everywhere. Now, I'm reporting this because I know a lot of people have strong feelings about the use of generative AI in game development. We've seen tons of discussion around this. What kind of use is acceptable, if any? Some people come down on just a hard no. But I do think it's also important to remember that the kind of discussion you see on this online, comments on videos like mine, other channels all over the place, Reddit, whatever, that is the extreme enthusiasts, which are never representative of the general gaming population. So I do just need to remind you guys that the average gamer playing a video game will not have heard whether or not it used generative AI, and they probably wouldn't care even if they found out. And so if they enjoy the game and think it looks good, that's probably all there is to it for the general gaming audience. So when game publishers and developers and the people funding these games think about, okay, we're getting all this backlash, but at the same time, that's, the vocal minority. I think many, many game developers are going to be using and already are using generative AI tools in development. Now, whether they actually hold to their promise of the final product being human crafted, I don't know. We'll have to see, because they might also just bank on, well, if they can't tell, they can't tell, so leave it in, saves us money. Like, that starts to get definitely more objectionable if they're saying one thing and do something else, and what is their process for getting it out of there? And my main issue with all of this personally is just like, I want the games to actually represent like human ideas and art, because when I see things look cool, part of it is like, wow, I can't believe somebody made that. Like when I look at like art, I'm thinking about the how cool it is that a human had that idea and did it. And so for me, that's my problem with the generative AI. Now, a lot of people are thinking more on like the ethics side, and is it plagiarism, and are we losing jobs? And I certainly have valid, concerns over all of those things as well. But like from a personal enjoyment of a video game standpoint, if I just look at it from that standpoint, my issue is like oftentimes when I play a game that like impresses me, sometimes it's like, how cool it is that a human had this idea and was able to do it. And if it's generative AI doing it, you just completely lose that aspect of enjoyment. Now, that's not the only aspect of enjoying a video game, but it certainly is an aspect of enjoying a video game. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. So anyway, just thought I'd leave you guys with that. Hopefully you guys found the video useful and or interesting. Don't forget you can check out jawa.gg for some of the best deals in these current times in the PC industry. Seriously, the used market. Check it out. And don't forget you can save $10 off that first purchase using code OWEN10 following the link in the video description and or pinned comment. Thanks to Jawa for sponsoring this part of today's video.